Hey everyone, welcome to this video. From here, we're starting our journey into ChatGPT prompts. Let's start by opening this link. You'll find this link in the resources section of this video. When you open this link, you'll see these three sections. Each of these sections have different categories. In this video, we're starting with 50 ChatGPT prompts for programmers. So click this and you'll see this page. Now there are 5 sections for programmers: code generation, documentation, and each of these sections has 10 prompts that I have carefully created for you. Let's get started with code generation. So when you're writing code, you would be writing functions a lot. So the first prompt will let you create a function in a certain language to achieve a certain objective. Now the way I write these prompts is, this is the generic string, and then the keywords or input from you will go inside of these square brackets. So for example, create a function in Python to reverse a string, like that. So there we go. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. And sure enough, ChatGPT provides us with the Python function with a nice doc string. This is how you reverse a string. This is the slice notation. And here it tells you how it came up with this. And then it also shows you an example. So this is one of my favorites. Now you can enter a list of objectives inside this. Reverses a string and does not use slice notation. This will be interesting. And this time it uses a for loop. It's pretty interesting, right? And if you've seen my video on positive and negative prompts, you can also include positive prompts to do these activities. And then you could say, do not do these activities. And you can list whatever you don't want to do inside of square brackets, a new pair of square brackets. All right, number 3 is also interesting. We can say code in some language. Let's say we know Python. So let's say here's the code, print hello world. Convert this code to, let's say you're learning JavaScript. And sure enough, there we go. It gives you a one-liner. You can have a whole block of code here or an entire program by using this way. For example, you could have something like this, and I can copy it. This is the noteboard extension for Chrome. I believe they have this for Firefox as well. So I can write quick notes over here like that, and then click accept, and a note is created. And I can copy the note from here like that. In this case, from here. And if I don't want a note, I can delete it like that. So since I've copied a note now, here we go. I'm going to paste it. Convert this code to JavaScript code, right? Let's see. It's going to take this function and convert it into a JavaScript function. So this is also one of my favorite prompts that I use when I'm learning a new language and I know an existing language. And I ask ChatGPT to do the code conversion for me. All right, now this second prompt, create a model in a particular language to represent an entity with these attributes. Again, let's say you're learning a new language. Let's say in this case, C#. And you want to create a model or an entity. So let me show you. Let's say you're learning C#, or you want the model to represent an entity with these attributes. Let's say you want a name, you want an age, and you want a profession. And notice you can also enter an ID. And you haven't provided the data types. For example, ID should have been integer, name should have been string. You haven't done that. But let's see if ChatGPT comes up with it. And sure enough, ChatGPT provides you with the exact model that you can use. And it also explains what these properties do. There we go. It also gives you examples on how you can use this in a program. And then it also shows you how you can print or access these values. And it also shows you a sample output. Out of curiosity, I want to see how this thing would be done in Python. For example, here we go. Python. And now it's going to generate the equivalent Python code. This is not using data classes. Python also simplifies creation of classes using data classes. So now you could say something like this: use data classes, and it picks up your context. It knows that you're talking about the Python code it just generated. And now it's going to use the data class decorator, and it gives you the proper import. And there you go. Pretty cool, right? Now, this prompt number 4 is also helpful when you want to know something. So you can make ChatGPT act like a certain type of developer. You can ask ChatGPT to provide you with step-by-step instructions to achieve a certain objective. Let's have a look now. Let's say for this example, you're learning Python. ChatGPT, I want you to act as an expert Python developer. Now give me step-by-step instructions. And since we were talking about data classes, so let's ask it to explain data classes. And let's see if ChatGPT understands that we need the data class decorator. And very cool. It understands that we want the data class. There we go. And now it's also explaining that these two dunder or magic methods are automatically created for you. The underscore init underscore. These are usually called the dunder methods or double underscore or magic methods. And very cool. It just gave you a step-by-step explanation of how to use data classes in Python. It's very cool, right? Now imagine you're doing React. You want to learn something in React. Let's say a very beginner example, create a component. There we go. So now it's going to act like an expert React developer and it's going to give you a brief overview. It tells you how to write a functional component and not a class-based component. This is a great thing. It understands. We did not tell it to create a functional component, but it understands that functional components are the way to go. So it creates a functional component for you, and it also shows you how to import it and use it. So this is also a very helpful prompt when you are learning how to program or you get stuck and you want ChatGPT to help you. As being part of a programmer, you will eventually be writing some sort of SQL or database query code. So you can make ChatGPT become your SQL instructor or SQL coach. What you could do is you can explain what you want to do. I have something, I've pasted it. What I want to do is, let's say I have some tables and I don't know the SQL query to get data out of those tables, but I know my desired outcome. So I'm explaining, list all students from students table who got grades above 50 and below 80. And then for each student who meets this criteria, retrieve their assignments grade for history from the assignments table. So notice this is a complex query. It's going to use joins. And let's say you don't understand how to use joins. So you're going to ask ChatGPT to do it now. It starts nicely by saying, assuming the table structure for students table has a column name and then column grade and column ID. This is the SQL. This is brilliant. It also explains that this query uses an inner join. Join the students and assignments table based on the students. Being able to use joins correctly is one of the skills that database administrators or people who work with databases need to master, because this can slow down your queries by a huge magnitude if you don't use joins correctly. So you can also tell this query is optimized for speed and performance. There we go. And it starts to give you more helpful advice that use inner join or you use indexes, which are brilliant suggestions. And then it also gives you avoid using select distinct. It can be slow and can be avoided. So there we go. It gave you the optimized version of that SQL query, which is excellent. And this prompt number 7 is when you're working with a particular type of database, let's say SQLite, and now you're launching this database to production and you want to use Postgres. So you can type in the SQL query here and ask ChatGPT to convert it into the desired flavor. For example, MySQL or PostgreSQL. And this number 9 is also interesting. For example, you want to write a program in a certain language using a certain style of programming. Let's say you only want to do functional programming. And I want to show you this real quick. So let's say I want to write a program in, again, using Python as an example, to use the functional style to find the first 100 prime numbers. There we go. Very cool. So you're calling the primes function, and the primes function takes in the sieve function and it passes in some data and also a range and it generates it. Let's see an example in another language. Now, traditionally C# is not considered to be a functional programming language, but we're asking C# to use functional style to find the first 100 Fibonacci numbers. And this time we're going to see some code in C# using the functional style. There we go. It generates a function called Fibonacci sequence, and this is the code for it. Let's say you want to test this code. So you could say, hey, write 5 unit tests for this function. And notice you did not mention which language you're referring to, but ChatGPT understands you're referring to the generated code, that is the C# code. And it uses XUnit, one of the popular unit testing frameworks for C#, and it creates these tests for you. All right, and sometimes if it gets stuck, what you do is you type 3 dots and press enter, and it tells you that, hey, it understands that the final part of the test got cut off, and it starts to complete the whole test for you. And there we go, the tests have been written for you, and then you can run it in Visual Studio or VS Code, whichever IDE you're using. So there you go, my friends. So this was part 1 of the video where I showed you how to start generating code. And in the next video, I'll show you how to work with documentation. So I'll see you in the next video then.